Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and we're just going to go over the patch notes really quick for 924B. So as always, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. We stream every night starting around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so come on out. We'd love to have you. A very friendly, chill community. And I am going to be releasing new tier lists as well for this patch, so be sure to check that out. It should be releasing over the next couple of days. I'm going to do the support tier list and then a top 5 for each role tier list after that. So let's go ahead and get in here. All right, so Alistar getting some random rounding, like 1.5 health, base health, like not even 1 attack damage, and 0.13 attack damage growth per level. Like, I don't even know what to say. It's not even like the 3 AD meme anymore. It's like the 0.13 AD per level meme. And then 5 extra health early on. It does double to allies up to 50 instead of 40 for the healing. So it does give like a little bit more sustain in the laning phase. So, you know, that is meaningful in some matchups. But like this isn't going to matter. The main reason that Alistar is out of the meta, like he gets picked some in pro because he has a point click, you know, WQ. But in general, like, even in pro, like, Rakan's just way better most of the time. Rakan can't tower dive at level 6 and take as many shots, but he just has so much more utility than Alistar, especially later on in the game, that there's just really not much of a reason to play him. The thing when Alistar fell out of the meta, and I am still a little sick, so I do apologize for that, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. They took a lot of damage out of his trample when it was fully stacked. They took off like 50 damage probably like a year and a half ago, and that was pretty much it for him. And then Leona and Nautilus have just received like tons and tons of buffs over the last year. So pretty much you would almost never pick Alistar instead of Leona or Nautilus just because they have more damage, more CC, and you know they're just better. They're just better than he is, pretty much in almost every way. So unless it's like maybe a challenger level game or something like that, and you need the point click, hard engage, you want to be soaking tower shots, or something like that, maybe you would pick Alistar. But in general, he's still going to be a pretty weak pick. Okay, Aphelios no longer applies on hits an additional time. I don't think that was relevant most of the time. People didn't get like Gensu's or Manamune on him, I don't think. So, don't think that matters. I mean, maybe if he was getting Manamune, you know, you could see that. I'll be honest with you, I'm still not 100% sure, like, what's optimal on him in terms of gameplay and items and things like that. I've seen him a few times in my games, and sometimes he's just, like, hit or miss. You know, it's like he's either taken over or he's just totally worthless. It feels like in the mid-game he gets pretty strong once he gets that slow gun, and you can start rooting people with that, and like the flamethrower, once that comes online, he can start pushing. That feels pretty good, but he's kind of an odd duck. It still is going to take a little while for me to get a good sense of, you know, how strong he is. But they're going ahead and nerfing him, so his marked damage ratio was they're taking it down to 0.3. It's bonus attack damage, so that's going to hurt his scaling, and then they are knocking down the amount of AoE damage that he does with Infernum empowered Moonlight Vigil. So, a couple of nerfs. I mean, maybe he was performing really well in like Challenger level Elo or something. I feel like he was below 50% though in like normal people Elo. Barely. He's at about 50%. So, fine. I mean, I think it's a little bit early for a nerf, but whatever. It's okay. He'll probably still be good in situations where he's good. Now, Ezreal. Ezreal is actually, at least anecdotally in my games, I feel like he's actually a lot stronger than he was with Klepto statistically. I don't think that's true over like a very large sample size. He's actually gone down a little bit. But I can just tell you, he seems to come online a lot earlier with Conqueror. And he does like a surprising amount of damage once he gets that stacked up in the early game, even with just an unevolved Manamune. So I've seen him do like all right in my games, but I mean his win rate is still really low, so he probably does need a buff. But that's probably fine. But I think that like good Ezreal's deceptively like with the Conqueror are still pretty good. They did nerf ranged Conqueror last patch, but it was just kind of the healing on it. I mean, you do have to land a Q or an auto attack every 6 seconds instead of 8 seconds to keep it up, so that does matter, but I think he's still alright in some circumstances. Garen, now this was one where I thought this was not going to matter. I thought that Garen was still going to be really strong. It was just going to be a slap on the wrist, maybe like 1%. It turns out that actually was quite significant for Garen. So that was one that I did get wrong on the last patch. It did knock him down probably like 4%, 3 or 4% from where he was. I think he was about 53 or 54% total top lane. So that did whack him pretty good. Now, given that, I still think it's fine if he's at about a 50% play rate. I think that's where he should be. Very simple champions that are easy and effective, they should be at about 50%, where there's not really like a ton of skill expression there. They should probably clock in at about 50%, like your Garens, your Sonas, stuff like that. You don't want those champions being like 54, 55%. That's just pretty unhealthy for the game. Now, some people might say, oh, what about Janna? What about Janna? The thing is, like, Janna is deceptively, like, playing her at a really high level is deceptively kind of tricky. I mean, she's not as good as Thresh, but the thing is, everything in her kit is reactive. You can't really make proactive plays, so you have to be able to predict what the enemy's going to do and have really fast reactions to try to counter that, especially with her Q. When someone's trying to engage, to be able to stuff something like a Leona E, you have to do that a lot faster than you used to because the tornado moves much slower than it did about a year and a half ago. I played a lot of Janna back in the day. So I'm not saying she's the most difficult champion in the world, but I'm saying that she's definitely, to play her at a fully optimal level, she's harder than like Sona and Garen. And the same thing with Soraka. People think that she's just a mindless healer. But, if you're really playing her correctly, you need to be hitting your Qs to empower your heals. Then you have to be able to position really well so that you don't get blown up. And really manage your health, especially in the early to mid game. So neither one of them is like super difficult to play, but I would say each one of them is more difficult to play than like Garen or Sona. I guess that could be a controversial opinion, but Sona is sitting around like 50 to 51%. But anyways, my point is I think Garen was fine about 50%, but they just decided to buff him up. I mean, if he has like 54% in like silver or bronze, same thing with Sona, I think that's okay where like consistency should come at a high premium. But he really shouldn't be having like 54% in like Platinum Plus, and he certainly should not be like a pick or ban champ in Pro. Now that was with Yumi specifically in the early rounds of Worlds, but nevertheless, I was okay with the nerf, but I guess they wanted to give him back, show him a little love, whatever. I think he's just really uninteresting as a champion. I don't know. I mean, they may need to just, like, they need simple champs in the game, because not everyone wants to play like a super intense, mechanically tough champ. Some people are just new to the game. Some people have bad internet connections. Some people have slow reflexes. Some people just want to chill and like not think that much and zone out and just play some music and smash people top lane or something. And all of that's okay. I just don't think those champs should be like tier 1 champs once you get to like gold and higher. I think they should be like, for that kind of consistency, you're paying a price. They should have bad matchups. They should have a fairly decent amount of outplay potential by other champs. Okay, Gnar. This is not going to matter. I mean, the main thing with Gnar is that it's just really hard to... And people have asked me before, why is Gnar not that great in solo queue? And the main thing is it just requires really good coordination with your team to make him effective. Because when he's small Gnar in team fights, he's not that strong. And so, like, you really need to be able to teleport in right whenever you're about to transform and get a good flank, and then you roll up, and get that, like, 3-person smash into a wall. So it just requires a lot of coordination that just doesn't happen or is not necessary with a lot of other champions. So, I mean, he's okay. Like, this extra attack damage, it is total attack damage instead of bonus attack damage, so that is meaningful. That does include your base. So we'll give him a little bit of better trading power in the laning phase especially. This, I don't think matters. You max Q first, so this is relevant. The W, I think W is max second, but honestly, I can't remember. I haven't played Gnar in a while. It'll probably help a little bit, but I still don't think he's going to be top tier, top lane. You know, I think if you want a range like bully type of champion that team fights, just Kennen's going to be better at that most of the time. Or maybe even something like a Nico or, I mean, they did change Klepto up a little bit, so that does create a bit more space for something like Gnar. Or even just like Rise or Cassiopeia or something like that. I don't know. I feel like there are probably better options, but this will probably help him out a little bit. Okay, Graves, 2 seconds off. You do max Q first. I guess it's 2 seconds at all ranks, so it doesn't matter what you max. But this is useful because the lower your base, every time you auto attack something, then it lowers the cooldown on everything else when you quick draw, I believe. So getting those 2 seconds is actually fairly significant just because you churn through your cooldowns. And I feel like he was doing all right at higher level play, win rate wise. I know I've seen him more for sure, but you know, sometimes when you're thinking about what's strong, you can have a lot of bias in what you actually see in your games, which is a small sample size compared to, you know, the millions of games that are played like every day in League of Legends. So sometimes that can be misleading. But I have seen several strong Graves in my game. So I think he has the potential there, but, you know, he's about a 50% win rate. So it's okay. I mean, little buff to him is probably all right. He is the type of champ where, now they are buffing lethality also, but he is the type of champ where if he does get strong, then he can be oppressive in the meta. So they are buffing lethality, although I don't think most of the time he's going to get... He does get some lethality. I don't know. There are several builds on him. Like, I guess you can go for the hard lethality build, like Warrior into like Ghostblade Cleaver, but I feel like more often, or Ghostblade Dustblade, but I feel like more often he does like Cleaver fairly early because each one of those little pellets triggers Cleaver. So you can get like full Cleaver stacks on people really easily. And then I think he goes like Cleaver like Death's Dance or something. Maybe that's an old school build. Maybe now he goes Cleaver Storm Razor, maybe for the slow, or maybe like Cleaver Infinity Edge or something. I'm not sure. But either way, it's probably fine. Okay, Heimerdinger is getting some nerfs, and this might seem really weird because Heimerdinger is a fairly obscure champion, but he did have a pretty high win rate, and he was getting played in a lot of different roles. And anytime something is getting played in like 3 different roles, and it has a high win rate, you got to start to be a little careful with that. Yeah, I mean, he was played in like 4 roles. Now, support's pretty rare, but he legit can be played top, middle, and bottom and be pretty effective. So 3 different roles, most of them have like a 53% win rate. That just creates a lot of problems, especially because he can flex. Like, people don't know where he's going to go. Like, if something can flex into multiple roles, you have to really look carefully at that because of competitive and challenger level play. And as people who, you know, try to think about and plan for matchups, they can really get bamboozled there. Off a champion that can go to multiple places. And he's just pretty good in the meta overall. Like, he does push really well, he takes plates, he gets priority for dragons, rifts. Later on in the game, he can take the dragons and rifts really easily with his turrets. He's very difficult to dive. There are still a lot of melee champions being played. Most of the popular support champs are still going to be melee. A lot of the popular junglers are still going to be melee. A lot of top laners are going to be melee. So it's kind of like a really melee-centric meta. He's just a total pest to deal with his turrets and things like that. So he probably did deserve a little bit of a nerf. As much as I think he's a cool champion in general, legit, if you're looking at it unbiased, he probably did need a bit of a nerf just because he hard counters melees a lot of times, both in team fights and in the laning phase. So that being said, I don't think that the nerfs are really like that bad. Based on what I see Heimerdingers usually do. Once again, I'm not a Heimer expert, but the micro rockets, the base damage is down at 10 per level. I think this is okay. I mean, if you do like an overloaded rocket, like your ult plus rockets, that can one-shot people if you land the stun. So I don't know the breakpoints if this would lower it like that much, because all of the extra rockets do a certain percentage of whatever the base is, so that ends up like not looking like a lot, but it's quite a bit. Yeah, so if you hit them with everything there, it goes from a total of 324 max to 306 when those are... I don't think you max. I don't know. I feel like you can either max rockets or the turrets. I guess a lot of people max rockets. I don't know. I think you can do it either way depending on how you want to itemize and the playstyle you want to do. But I guess that's not that bad. So it's like 10 off the base, but like if you're hitting them with everything, even at early levels, I guess 18 off right here is kind of rough. Like early levels, but it's like 18 at every level. It's probably okay. And then the grenade, the normal grenade damage is not changed, but the empowered grenade damage, there's 50 off. So that's brutal. Like, that's pretty rough. However, I don't see him use that a lot. And that's kind of the least skill expressive one. You just throw it and it bounces a million times and might stun people. What I see him do a lot of the time is the upgraded turret. So, like, usually someone's trying to dive him, and then he just, like, spams his abilities and drops an upgraded turret and then hourglasses, and the turret just, like, murders everybody before he wakes up a lot of times. So, I see him use the upgraded turret more than anything else in a lot of games, although he can use the empowered one, especially when he's ahead and he's trying to engage. So, I don't know. He has other options. So, this definitely sucks for the empowered E, but the empowered Q is still really good. And even empowered rockets, if you land the stun and you want that one shot, will probably still work against squishy targets. So, I think he's probably fine. I mean, this might knock him down like maybe 1% or something, but it's probably okay. Okay, Shaco. So, a lot of his stuff is overperforming. Is jungle overperforming? It's pretty good. I mean, Warwick's higher. But once again, like, the nature of it is because he's flex. Because he can be flex jungle or flex support now. And he can go AP or AD. So that makes it really difficult to kind of figure out your matchups and figure out how you want to itemize. And it just creates a huge headache in champ select and things like that. Now, he is a very unique support, so I kind of hate dumpstering a unique support, even though he's very annoying to play against personally. Like, it's cool to have something that's different. It's not just Janna, Soraka, or Nautilus, Leona every game. So I kind of like that he's in the meta as a support. They nerfed his boxes a few patches ago, which was kind of rough on him. They are increasing his mana cost a lot here, so 65 for 2 Shiv. I think you max boxes too early on, so at least as support. So paying 15 extra mana per Shiv is definitely going to eat into your early game poke. I mean, I've seen some games where AP Shaco does more damage than all of the carries on a team. So he definitely can take over. So it's not just a random ban. Like, he is like legit pretty good, especially in team fights later on. So this is just going to hurt his poke in the early game. They are lowering the AP ratio by like 0.05, especially for support. That's not going to matter. The mana cost is going to matter a little bit more. Like, in the very early game, you can't just constantly spam your Shiv. It probably won't matter that much. As far as like AD Shaco, it's probably not going to matter. I mean, he's losing what, 0.1 bonus attack damage. That is going to hurt AD Shaco a little bit more. I don't think they need to nerf AD Shaco. I don't think AD Shaco is that great right now. I think just nerfing the AP ratio would have been fine, but whatever. He's probably still going to be all right. I mean, maybe 0.5% or something. It probably won't change that much. Okay. Drake's. I like nerfing Soul because I feel like a lot of times when someone gets Soul, they just basically win the game. However, it is difficult to get the Soul. You have to basically get 4 in a row and dominate people, and it does allow for like more closeouts and less comeback potential. So if you're someone who prioritizes Dragon and calls it and looks for opportunities constantly to do it, like me, a lot of times in games, this is not going to be good for you. But at the same time, they were pretty excessively strong because it's a permanent buff. Whenever you get that Dragon Soul, it is permanent. And it's a lot of stats. So I think nerfing some of those are okay. However, I don't think they need to nerf base dragons because I think those are fine. Those are already nerfed from earlier. So if a team gets 1 or 2 early dragons, like, they don't totally snowball out of control. It's a threat that they eventually get to the soul, but I think the early dragons were already, like, pretty nerfed from the end of last season, so they're knocking down Infernal down to 4. Remember, at the start of last season, I think it was, like, 10 or something like that. It might have even been more. Let me see if it's got the changes here. It should down at the bottom. I'm pretty sure it was 10. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Does it say what it... Let me see if I can click on one of the dragons. If it'll tell me that one dragon. Because I'm pretty sure, like, this one used to be 10. New health, old health. Okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, the terrain stuff doesn't matter as much. Okay, it's not telling me the information that I want to know. I'm not seeing it. I'm almost positive that it used to be something like 10. Like 10% bonus AD and AP off of the first one. It was a lot. And now it's down to like 4. 4. It was at least 8, and I think it was closer to 10, but now it's 4. So that, I mean, that's kind of low, man. That's kind of ridiculous, right? I mean, it's still like okay money, right? Like if you have 100 AP, like 100 or the equivalent in AD of each person on your team, you know, that's giving out like like 80 gold a person. So that's like 400 gold equivalent that you're getting off of that for every 100 AP, I mean to say. So if your team averages 100 AP on everybody, that's 400 gold. If they average 200 AP, that's 800 gold for the buff. So that means early game, like, getting a kill plus an assist is, like, probably more gold than one Infernal. So, like, it might almost be worth, potentially. I don't think it is fully, but, you know, if you can go top and get a kill on the top laner, and then if they don't have teleport, like if they just teleported back and you get a kill on them, and you push them in and you deny a minion wave, take a plate, get a kill with an assist, I think that's almost better than like an Infernal now, like one Infernal. It's an okay trade. And I don't think that should be the case. I don't think one kill plus a little bit of like lane pressure, I don't think that should be better than Dragon. I think at a minimum, a Dragon should be worth 2 kills. Because it's riskier to take. You know, it can get stolen. It takes you a while to kill it. In the early game, you're taking a lot of damage to try to kill it a lot of times. You know, your team is often at like a pretty big risk because, you know, you have to go into the pit and it's just like an AoE trap nightmare. You know, it's just a lot riskier versus like you're going for a kill, like you gank top lane. There's no risk. Like basically, like just about. You know, you show up, you're probably going to get flash. If they don't have flash, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill. Unless your, like, top laner is completely incompetent. If you're the jungler. You know, it's, like, the worst case scenario is they get away from you. And that's it. Like, the worst case scenario is nothing happens. And you probably still get a lane advantage. They're still going to take damage or blow summoners or other really important cooldowns. Maybe an ult or something. Maybe Malphite ults to get away or something. Like, you're going to get something guaranteed. And the worst case scenario is not that bad. But the worst case scenario on Dragon is terrible. Because people, like, someone, like, comes over on the blast cone, steals the Dragon, and then their enemy team collapses and kills 2 or 3 of you, and that's GG. You know? You just lost a fight, you lost a dragon, you lost 3 kills, they're going to take plates, they're going to take your whole jungle. After all that's done, it's lights out if you screw that up. So it feels like, you know, dragons need to be very powerful because they're risky. If you F it up, you know, then you can throw an entire game off of a bad dragon call. versus something as simple as like a gank is relatively risk-free. Like, the risk in ganking top is the enemy takes the dragon. That's the risk. But they have to call that. They have to have the lane pressure to set that up. And really, if they don't have a good shot caller on their team, they may not do it, especially under Diamond. People are just not going to be looking at that. They're not going to say, oh, the jungler's top. We need to get priority in mid lane and bot lane and go get dragon, like, right now. A lot of people just aren't going to be thinking that. A lot of just kind of your average Joe, average Jane players aren't going to be thinking that in gold most of the time. So, I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like nerfing the dragons themselves. I don't mind nerfing the souls. Like, I don't think it should be like 90% the game's over if you get a soul. But I don't like nerfing these early dragons. They already did that in the preseason. They cut all of the bonuses like in half. So, especially Infernal, man. Like, leave it alone. It's already one of the weaker souls if you only get one or two of them. So they're nerfing the soul pretty significantly here. I mean, 20 less damage is a lot. That's like, I don't even know, close to 25% less damage overall with less ratios on it. So that's a pretty big nerf. Mountain Drake, once again, they're taking it down a little bit. This is similar. If they have 100 resistances, you're getting about, this is actually a little bit better than Infernal. If you have 100 resistances, because you get armor and magic resist. You get both of them for this. Not either or, it's both. So it's your combined resistances. And it's, I don't think it's bonus. It's total, right? I think it's total. I'm like 99% sure that it's total. Is it going to tell us total? Let me see. Types of dragons. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Wind, cloud. Okay. Is he going to tell me the buff or what? I'm pretty sure it's total. But anyways, so that's pretty good. So almost everybody, if it's just your base armor and your base magic resist, you're going to have like 100. So that's going to give you 120 gold each. So that's going to be, like 600 baseline gold. If everyone has like 200 combined resistances, then that's going to be 1,000 gold each. So that one's a little bit of a better value proposition. That's a bit, people want to be able to take that. So I think that's a little bit more appropriate. I think a dragon should be worth at least 1,000 gold in stuff that you get off of it. Between 750 and 1,000 gold in the early game. Because then that's going to be like 2 kills. A kill plus an assist is about 450 gold with no shutdown incentive. So I think it should be in the realm of about 2 kills for a dragon. Okay, Mountain Soul, they're lowering that. That's a huge nerf. That's 55 shield nerf. That's pretty nutty. I actually don't think that Soul is that great. It's okay. It's like, it's good against poke, but it's like basically you just get that much health because it's going to get knocked off early in the fight, which I guess if you have a really squishy team, that's okay, but I've never really, I felt that was one of the least strong ones. Okay, Ocean Drake buff is going down by 17%. So this one's a little harder to calculate in terms of just raw numbers, but it's probably still pretty good. It doesn't affect mana that's missing. So I think these Drakes are like not... Once again, it kind of depends on the matchup. It's okay. Ocean's not nearly as strong as it was. During the normal season, Season 9, Ocean was the most OP thing early game because it was mana and health, and I think it was a higher percentage than that. But this one, whenever you do damage, everybody heals for a lot, is getting nerfed pretty significantly. I mean, going from 180 to 160 is not, like, I guess as bad as some of the other ones. But it's like a 10% nerf or something, but... it's whatever. And I guess they're not changing Wind. I actually think Wind is one of the best ones as far as just like baseline dragon, what you get out of it. I mean, 10% cooldown reduction on an ult. I mean, 10% cooldown reduction by itself is like between 260 and 270 gold each. Now, it's only on the ults, so it's hard to calculate that, but if you have a team that has, like, you know, 2 or 3 champions that have really important ults, and there are a lot of champions that have powerful ults out there, I think that's actually kind of the norm rather than the exception, is that most champions have powerful ults. Getting that 10% CDR on that, especially because you can go over the CDR cap. I think after these nerfs, it's going to make Windrake the best one to get in the early game. Now, the Windrake Soul is one of the worst ones, but that one's actually getting a buff, I think. Or did they not buff it? Okay, on the PBE, it looked like they were going to buff it, but I guess they decided just to leave it alone. So that's fine. They are changing the Elder Dragon buff. They're lowering the damage by quite a lot, which is okay. I mean, Elder Dragon, like, never falls in most games. I think it goes down, like, maybe 1 out of every 10 games or something. It seems really, really rare in my games. Most games are over by then, before Elder comes into play, which is what I said was going to happen in the preseason. Everyone's like, oh my god, Elder's OP, it's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, but it's not going to happen most of the time. It's like, oh, Veigar's ridiculous when you get to 1,000 stacks with his passive. It's like, yeah, but that's not going to happen. Or Nasus with 1,000 stacks. It's just not going to happen in most games, right? So it's like the fantasy of the Elder Dragon is really good, but realistically, it just doesn't matter that much. So, I don't know. I guess they could nerf it. It's like 150 seconds, though. They're nerfing the timer on it. I don't like that because that just disproportionately hits, like, lower-end solo queue way harder than other stuff. Because you got just random people that'll go and, like, farm dragons before they back because they need to get one more longsword before they push for a siege with Elder Dragons. They just want to slow everyone up for 30 seconds while they go grab Gromp or push a side wave or go chase the support for 15 seconds through their jungler or through their jungle and then end up dying, and then you have to wait on the death timer for like 45 seconds. And, you know, there's just going to be so many situations where you can't even do anything with the buff in 150 seconds, is what I think. You're just not going to be able to get much done, especially because it doesn't help you siege at all. Really, like, it doesn't empower the minions. It doesn't, I don't think, doesn't do a lot of extra damage to towers. This damage might happen at towers. I don't remember if it does or not, but either way, I wish they just lowered the damage on it a little bit, and that would be fine. And that would actually matter at high elo. Like, Challenger and Pro Play, this is not as much of an issue. Like, it kind of is, but people are, like, on point. You know, they're ready to buy all their stuff, and they're going to be efficient with their time. But this is a pretty big nerf to, you know, like low diamond and lower probably. Okay, so that I don't think they need to nerf that. I think Elder's already risky also because if you're getting Elder, a lot of times the enemy can trade and get Baron if you want to get Elder, and so it's kind of tough to say which one would be better in different situations. I mean, Elder's probably going to be better in team fights than Baron is, but Baron's going to be way better for sieging. And if you can't get priority in a lane, it's hard to go get a team fight. If you got like a Tryndamere in a side lane with Baron pushing, you're just not going to ever be able to do anything with Elder. So, I don't know. I think that they're overreacting to the dragons a little bit. I mean, like I said, the Dragon's Soul itself, some of them, a little on the strong side. Like, Infernal and Water are on the strong side with the Soul. So, I don't mind those nerfs. But the rest of the stuff is... the rest of the stuff's a little too much, I think, on the nerfs. But, whatever. I mean, the dragons are still going to be important. The soul's still strong. Yeah, I don't like that too much, though. Okay. Lethality. Now, are lethality users really getting hit that hard? I mean, I'm okay with lethality not being OP for once in the last year. Nocturne mid, Pike's mid, still kind of rare pick. I mean, I guess Talon and Zed are down a little bit. I mean, Talon's still at 52%. I feel like Zed is the type of champ that's never going to be like... It's going to be very rare that he's significantly over 50%. But that he can be really good in the right hands. I mean, I guess... I feel like Kha'Zix is still really strong in the jungle, though. Like, if you're going to buff lethality, you need to nerf Kha'Zix. I mean, I guess Kha'Zix is a little low. It's 51%. I really just hate that champion. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater because lethality does, kind of hard counter a lot of champions that I like to play. But, I mean, Lee's pretty popular too. Lee doesn't have to go lethality though. I guess it's fine. Statistically, it does look like lethality champions are a little on the weaker side, especially after the more recent nerfs to Pike and to the new Dirk item for isolation kills. I'm blanking out on the name right now, but it's okay. So Sarah to Dirk's getting 5 extra damage, okay, and then that's going to get passed on to the other items. I mean, that's pretty significant. Like, that's an extra 5 AD is like 175 gold value off the Dirk, or added to the Dirk, so that's pretty strong. And Edge of Night's getting another flat 5 on top of that. So Edge of Night's effectively getting 10, I think, which that item's pretty trash a lot of the times anyways. So I guess that's fine. We'll see. I really just don't want to see like Kha'Zix's Talon, in all of my games. But anyway, okay, Aphelios, that shouldn't matter. None of that other stuff matters. Okay, so not that much of a shakeup. That's probably fine. In general, I think the meta is actually pretty good overall. I think there's a lot of stuff that's viable in a lot of different roles. In ADC role, you've got, Caitlyn, Senna, Jhin, I think are all really strong, but you can still see like Jinx taking over the game, like Twitch taking over the game if they get ahead, and then you kind of see even some of the utility champs like Ashe still like okay, and then you're seeing like Lucian is kind of another early game bully. Then people still like to pick Kai'Sa, so I think like ADC is pretty diverse, support's diverse. You've got the enchanters, especially Soraka and Janna are really strong again, but then like Leona and Nautilus are still going to be really good too. Zyra's got a pretty good win rate, I think. Junglers, I mean, look at these top junglers here. You've got sort of an AP kind of, I don't know what you'd call Echo, like a brawler mage, melee mage. You've got a high scaling ADC. You've got kind of a mid-game brawler. You've got an assassin. You've got the enchanter. Now, he's not played a lot. You got kind of early game power, like there's just a lot of diversity, and like the jungle, like top win rate jungles, like there's not really a super clear trend about like what's dominating there. I think the tanks are still pretty good, but then you've also got like Shaco and Yi and like Echo that are pretty far up there in Elise, and then kind of support was similar, right? You've got your Soraka and your Janna, but then you have kind of Shaco is sort of your Shaco and Bard is kind of your oddball like AP aggro supports. Then you still got your Blitz, your Leonas, that type of stuff. Zyra's up there, Nautilus, so that's looking pretty healthy. Top lane, the Mord, the Darius, and Garen are all still like pretty good top, sort of your bruisers. But then Malphite's very popular. He's still pretty strong as sort of your engaged tank, utility tank, sort of with Shen too. Then you got your bruiser with Kled. So and then you've got kind of your pusher with Yorick. So there's a pretty good mix of like tanks, bruisers, in the top lane. So I think the meta overall, and then mid lane's always really diverse. Pretty much in every meta, there's just going to be a whole bunch of different weird things that are pretty good in mid. So overall, I think it's a pretty good meta. I don't think they need a nerf or buff like that many things in the meta right now. There aren't that many champions that are like have a high play rate that also are like well north of like 54%. And there aren't a ton that are like really far under 45 either. There are some in there, but overall, I think it's fairly solid. Just reworking and sort of maybe buffing up some of the weaker champions could be nice. But I don't think there are that many pressing things they have to nerf that are just like super strong. There's a couple of things out there that are a little on the strong side, but anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this. Please be sure to stay tuned for the tier list. I'll probably release that tomorrow. My wife's family is coming in. Rory is in this performance this Christmas thing where she basically just stands up there and tries to sing stuff later this evening. So we're going to go and check that out. I will still stream, but I'm probably not going to have time to do the tier list today. So I'll just release those tomorrow. But anyways, that's going to be it. Have a good day. We'll see everybody next time.